Alright everybody, welcome back. Selamat datang semuanya. We've got another training today which is all about delegation and empowering your team. Ya, jadi hari ini kita fokusnya adalah untuk mendelegasi dan untuk empowering tim kita, terutama apabila kita sudah menciptakan transition plan. Ya, so this is particularly important. This is the second part of our training after you created your transition plan. So, before we start, sebelum kita mulai, as usual, please type down your number one intent from today. What's the number one thing you would like to learn about delegation and empowerment, in particular, related to your context? Oke, seperti biasa, we're gonna start with the problems ya. Jadi kita akan melihat tentang tantangan-tantangan utama yang sering kita lihat. Okay, so the first common issue that we normally see is a lack of desire from the leader to actually delegate. Ya, jadi problem pertama yang sering kita lihat mungkin adalah kurangnya niat dari pemimpinnya untuk benar-benar mendelegasikan sesuatu. This usually happens because the leader is sort of justifying their existence. They're trying to keep on certain things, or they just feel like they don't have the time to delegate because they need to get the results. Where the leader is actually trapped in execution as opposed to leading. Ya, jadi ini biasanya terjadi jika pemimpinnya ini mungkin lebih terperangkap di mode eksekusi daripada di mode memimpin. Ya, jadi dia lebih fokus ke getting things done daripada fokus yang seharusnya dilakukan oleh seorang pemimpin. The second common problem that we tend to see is people having unclear goals. Ya, jadi biasanya hal kedua yang kita suka lihat adalah adanya goals yang tidak jelas. So this is a very common thing that I tend to see where usually the biggest clue where the goals are not clear is where the leaders have to spend a lot of time motivating their team members. Ya, jadi petunjuk pertama yang biasanya saya bisa lihat kalau goalsnya di sebuah organisasi kurang jelas adalah kalau leadersnya sibuk memberi motivasi ke timnya. Basically, a well-defined goal, a clear goal, should actually have motivation already built in. If you've built the right team, they should be already pre-motivated, right? It's more about what are we doing as leaders that is causing people to be demotivated, and one of the biggest culprit of that is usually unclear goals. Okay, the next common problem is over supervision. Problem yang berikutnya lagi yang sering muncul adalah namanya over supervision. This is where an employee who's already good at doing what they're doing is given a little bit too much attention or direction by the leader. Ya, jadi ini kalau terjadi over supervision ini adalah kalau ada seorang karyawan yang mungkin sudah jago saat melakukan sesuatu, dan untuk hal itu dia diberikan perhatian atau pengarahan yang terlalu berlebih dari pemimpinnya. So sometimes this might feel like micromanagement in a negative sense. Ya, jadi kadang-kadang nih akan terasa seperti micromanagement dengan konotasi negatif. The other common problem is under supervision, which is the opposite of over supervision, which is where an employee that might need a little bit more guidance, a little bit more support, is not getting it from the leader. Can't find the leader. Ya, jadi yang berikutnya adalah kebalikannya, di mana seorang karyawan yang mungkin membutuhkan bimbingan, dukungan dari pemimpinnya, dan dia tidak bisa mendapatkannya itu, right? So this sometimes can make an employee feel lost. They're not feeling like the leaders care about them, and therefore it can cause negative feelings just like over supervision can. Ya, jadi kadang-kadang karyawan kalau mendapatkan under supervision akan merasa tidak dipedulikan dan tidak diperhatikan, sehingga ini juga bisa punya dampak yang negatif, hampir sama seperti over supervision. If you're doing all four, then you're destined to be a busy leader. Ya, kalau Anda empat-empatnya ini dilakukan atau komposisinya mungkin beda-beda, Anda pastinya akan jadi pemimpin yang sangat sibuk dari sini. So what I'd love to know from you is which one of the four things do you feel is your biggest problem right now as a leader? Ya, dari 4 ini, lack of desire, unclear goals, over supervision atau under supervision, kira-kira hal mana nih yang jadi penghambat terbesar bagi Anda sebagai seorang pemimpin? Silahkan ditulis di chat box. Okay, great. So, jadi for whatever your problem is, we're gonna look for the opposite opportunity. Ya, jadi kalau kita lihat problem terbesar Anda di mana, mari kita lihat bersama sekarang peluangnya terbaiknya apa ya. So, if you have no desire, then you need to realize that our role as leaders is to show purposeful leadership. And the purpose of leadership is really to facilitate growth of the people around us. Ya, jadi kalau Anda mungkin selama ini kurang punya keinginan untuk mendelegasi atau empower orang lain atau kurang memberikan waktu untuk melakukan itu, kita harus sadar bahwa tujuan utama dari seorang pemimpin, tugas utama dari seorang pemimpin adalah untuk memfasilitasikan perkembangan bagi orang-orang di sekelilingnya dia. So, leaders are number one, people developers, and then execution is sort of their second or third priority. Ya, jadi perannya seorang pemimpin nih nomor 1 adalah mengembangkan orang, dan eksekusi sebetulnya adalah prioritas di bawahnya itu. You also need to make sure that you're providing absolute clarity to your team. Ya, jadi kita juga harus sadar bahwa PR kita sebagai pemimpin adalah memberikan kejelasan bagi anggota tim kita. And again, this comes with goal setting, and I'll go deeper about setting good, clear goals after this. Okay, and then the next one would be making sure that we're giving space when it's actually needed. So when there's somebody who's really good at doing what they're doing, we give them the space to have the autonomy and empowerment that they need. Okay, so jadi kita juga harus mengetahui sekarang kalau seandainya ada karyawan yang sudah hebat melakukan apa yang dia perlu lakukan, kita perlu memberikan dia space gitu sehingga dia punya otonomi dan empowerment yang dia butuhkan. On the other hand, if somebody really still needs a lot of guidance, then we want to be serving as needed then. Ya, jadi kalau ada orang yang memang masih membutuhkan bimbingan dan bantuan, kita ingin memastikan mereka mendapatkannya itu juga. Alright, so if you can do these things well, then you can have empowered people around you, and as a leader, you'll have more time, more energy to do other things that you you have to do, but you don't get the time to do, right? So, jadi kalau Anda bisa melakukan semua ini dengan baik, pastinya kita akan punya tim yang empowered, yang akan memberi kita waktu dan energi lebih banyak untuk melakukan hal-hal yang kita tahu harusnya kita lakukan, cuman mungkin kita nggak punya waktu untuk melakukannya itu. Alright, so I'm going to show you now the 5 key principles that you're going to need to be able to apply this well for you in terms of delegation and empowerment. Oke, sekarang saya akan menunjukkan 5 prinsip utama yang harus kita perhatikan mengenai ini. So the first one would be knowing and understanding the outcome. So this is talking again about goal setting. So let's go quickly into the goal setting mode ya. Jadi nomor 1, tidak bisa kita lari lagi dari kepentingannya goal setting dari sini. So mari kita lihat bersama sekarang tentang goal setting. Now, when you're talking about creating goals, then we need to make sure your goals are smart and fast. Okay, jadi kalau kita mau ngomongin goals, kita ingin memastikan bahwa goals kita nih smart dan fast. So, nah, if we do all 4 of these things, then the goal in itself will be a motivating one. Ya, jadi kalau 4-4-nya ini sudah kita lakukan, goalnya ini seharusnya sudah memotivasi orang itu gitu loh. Ya, jadi kalau dia tahu goalnya spesifik, dia tahu goalnya akan di tracking, dia taunya goal ini memang prioritas dan dia bisa membuatnya menjadi prioritas. Lalu dia merasa goal ini nih memang bisa dia achieve. Ya, jadi dia udah tahu ini penting, dia bisa melakukannya. So, it is a self-motivating goal, right? So if the person is very clear on what the goal is, clear that they're going to be tracked, clear that this is important and why it's important, and it is a priority for them, and they feel like they can achieve it, then it is self-motivating. So the other thing about your goals that we need to make sure is they're fast. And then ultimately, we want to make sure that the goal is not only trackable, but it's transparent, where people can see it, they see it a lot, other people can see it too. Ya, jadi untuk bisa meningkatkan akuntabilitas, kita juga pengen bikin goalsnya ini lebih transparent. Alright, so let's move on now to the second key principle, which is diagnosing development. Sekarang kita akan maju ke prinsip yang berikutnya, yaitu diagnosing development. So this one we've covered in managing development training, so I'm not going to go too deep on this. And then we talk about as a leader, we have to be meeting their needs, ya. Jadi kita juga bicarakan sebagai pemimpin, kita harus bisa memenuhi kebutuhan mereka. So again, this is in the same training. Ya, ini juga di training yang sama. Now, the fourth one and the fifth one is sort of interconnected. Okay, prinsip keempat dan prinsip kelima ini agak sedikit saling berhubungan. We have to remember that we as leaders, we lead human beings, right? We lead people. And we manage processes. We can't manage people, we can manage how processes are being run. Ya, jadi kita harus ingat kalau sebagai pemimpin, kita tuh memimpin orangnya atau manusianya, lalu kita bisa manage caranya proses dilakukan, dieksekusinya, atau caranya sebuah proses dieksekusi. Kita tidak bisa manage orang lain, tapi kita bisa manage eksekusi dari sebuah proses. So what we need to remember here, I guess, when we talk about leadership, there's a key statement that I want you guys to remember. No one cares how much you know until you show how much you care. Okay, jadi kalau kita ngomongin tentang leadership, ada sebuah statement yang menyatakan tidak ada orang yang peduli seberapa banyak yang Anda ketahui sampai Anda menunjukkan seberapa banyak peduli Anda terhadap seseorang, right? So you got to make sure that as leaders that we pay particular attention to, we've covered this before as well, sort of the heart, right? You're talking about the emotional aspect of a person, of your team. You're talking about relationships, you're talking about communication, you're talking about behaviors. Ultimately, when you show care, ultimately when you show care, then you're gonna basically be able to increase their levels of desire or motivation, right? Jadi kalau kita bisa meningkatkan ini, kita bisa menunjukkan bahwa kita peduli, kita akan bisa meningkatkan hasrat atau desire mereka, keinginan mereka untuk melakukan sesuatu dengan baik, right? So we're able to create a sense of wanting inside them to do something quite well, right? If we are able to do the leadership things. So the training on this one is leadership rhythm. Highly recommend. Ya, jadi kalau Anda mau ngomongin ini lebih dalam lagi, mempelajari ini lebih dalam, kita udah melakukan di training kita yang namanya leadership rhythm. The next one would be to remember that we are managing processes. It's quite simple. All we need to do is we need to make sure that our people are doing the right things. Jadi kalau untuk managing proses ini, kita harus memastikan bahwa orang-orang kita ini melakukan hal-hal yang benar. So number one, you got to make sure the processes are clear. Number two, you got to make sure that people know how to run the processes. Number three, we do regular checks to make sure that things are being done. They're getting the direction and support that they need to run these processes. Ya, jadi kita harus memastikan bahwa prosesnya udah jelas. Kita harus memastikan bahwa orang-orangnya udah tahu cara melakukan prosesnya dengan baik dan benar. Dan kita juga harus bisa check in dan untuk memastikan bahwa semua ini berjalan dengan baik dari sini. Alright. So what I would love for you to do now is just based on these 5 things, berdasarkan 5 hal ini, kira-kira hal mana nih yang paling berguna untuk Anda, right? Out of the key principles, which one's most useful for you so far? Please type.